Hello there. Tonight, we're stepping into the long and layered story of London, a city that has risen, fallen, burned, and rebuilt itself more times than almost any place on earth. Beneath its streets lie the remains of empires, revolutions, disasters, and dreams. Above them, the modern city moves, often unaware of the past still resting below. This is a place where Roman soldiers once marched beside the Thames, where kings ruled and rebels rose, where fire reshaped the skyline and war tested the spirit of millions. Every corner holds a memory. Every street has been walked by countless lives before your own. As we move through this story, you may find yourself drifting between centuries, from ancient walls to crowded markets, from royal halls to hidden alleys. Some moments may feel familiar, while others may open doors you never knew were there. If you enjoy these gentle journeys, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, all you need to do is relax. Let your body soften. Let your eyes grow heavy, and allow your mind to wander through the long and remarkable story of London. Let's begin. London began as a Roman trading town beside a tidal river. Before it became a capital of palaces, parliaments, museums, and millions of voices, London began as a practical Roman settlement on the edge of the Thames. The river mattered more than anything. It carried goods inland from the sea, gave merchants a route into Britain's interior, and offered the Romans a place to build a bridge where roads could meet. Around that crossing, Londinium grew with astonishing speed. Warehouses, workshops, homes, shrines, and markets gathered beside the water. Ships unloaded pottery, wine, oil, metalwork, and food from across the empire. People arrived from distant provinces, bringing languages and customs that made the city international from its earliest days. Even then, London was not just a place on a map. It was a point of connection where river, road, empire, and ambition met. The Great Fire destroyed medieval London, but spared the Tower of London. In September of 1666, a small bakery fire on Pudding Lane became one of the most famous disasters in English history. The flames spread through narrow streets packed with timber houses, overhanging upper floors, straw, and crowded shops. For days, the city burned with such force that molten lead ran from church roofs, and people fled with whatever they could carry. By the end, most of the old city inside the walls had been devastated. Thousands of homes were gone, along with dozens of parish churches and the old St. Paul's Cathedral. Yet the Tower of London survived. Its stone walls stood apart from much of the wooden city, a symbol of older power watching the destruction around it. The disaster cleared away a medieval world and opened the way for a new London of brick, stone, wider streets, and grander ambition. The Thames was once so polluted that Parliament nearly fled. In the summer of 1858, London's river became impossible to ignore. For generations, waste from homes, workshops, slaughterhouses, and streets had flowed into the Thames. The same river that carried boats through the city had also become an open sewer. Hot weather made the smell unbearable. Curtains in the Houses of Parliament were soaked in chemicals to mask the stench. But even that was not enough. Politicians discussed leaving Westminster because the air around the river had become so foul. This crisis, remembered as the Great Stink, helped force action on a scale London had never attempted before. Engineer Joseph Bazalgette designed a vast sewer network that intercepted waste before it reached the central Thames. His system transformed public health and changed the city beneath the surface. London's modern life still depends on that hidden Victorian achievement. the Blitz turned London's nights into fire, fear, and defiance. During the Second World War, London endured months of aerial bombing that changed the city's memory forever. Night after night, sirens warned civilians to seek shelter as enemy aircraft crossed the darkened sky. Bombs struck docks, homes, churches, factories, railway lines, and crowded neighborhoods. Families slept in underground stations. Firefighters worked through smoke and falling masonry. Searchlights crossed the clouds while anti-aircraft guns shook the ground below. The damage was immense, and the fear was real. Yet the city did not simply collapse under the assault. People queued for food, went to work, cleared rubble, rescued neighbors, and returned to damaged streets with remarkable resolve. St. Paul's Cathedral, seen standing amid smoke and flames, became one of the enduring images of survival. The Blitz did not make London invincible, but it revealed how stubbornly a city could endure. The Tower of London held queens, rebels, princes, and ravens. Few buildings in London carry as many stories as the fortress beside the Thames. Built after the Norman conquest, it was designed to project power over a city that William the Conqueror needed to control. Over time, it became much more than a castle. It housed royal apartments, armories, records, prisoners, treasure, and the crown jewels. Some entered through ceremony. Others arrived under guard. Anne Boleyn spent her final days within its walls. Elizabeth, before she became queen, was held there in uncertainty. The young princes associated with one of England's most enduring mysteries vanished from its story. Even the ravens became part of its identity, surrounded by legend and careful tradition. The tower is fascinating because it is never only one thing. It is palace, prison, symbol, museum, and warning, all folded into the same ancient stone. London Bridge once carried houses, shops, gates, and severed heads. For centuries, crossing the Thames at London Bridge was not just a journey over water. It was like entering a narrow street suspended above the river. The medieval stone bridge was lined with buildings so tightly packed that many travelers barely saw the Thames below. Shops traded from its sides. Homes rose above the roadway. Chapels and gates marked its length. The bridge was crowded, noisy, dangerous, and alive with business. At its southern end, the heads of executed traitors were displayed as a warning to all who entered the city. Beneath the arches, the tidal river rushed through with such force that boatmen treated the passage with real caution. This was not the open bridge Londoners know today. It was a strange urban world in itself, part marketplace, part fortress, part theatre of power, stretched across one of England's most important rivers. The Underground became the world's first railway beneath a city. When London opened its first underground railway in 1863, it solved a problem that had been growing for decades. The city's streets were overwhelmed by carts, horses, omnibuses, pedestrians, and smoke. Moving through London could be slow, crowded, and exhausting. The radical answer was to send trains below the surface. The earliest line ran between Paddington and Farringdon, using steam locomotives in tunnels cut through the ground and roofed over again. The journey was smoky and strange, but people came in enormous numbers. For the first time, a city had built a railway beneath itself for everyday travel. The idea spread across the world, but London did it first. The Underground changed where people could live, how they worked, and how the city expanded. It turned distance into something negotiable and made modern urban life possible in a new way. Westminster Abbey has crowned English monarchs for nearly 1,000 years. Few places in Britain carry ceremony as heavily as Westminster Abbey. Since the coronation of William the Conqueror in 1066, It has been the sacred setting where monarchs are transformed from heirs into rulers. The ritual is not simply decoration. It links kings and queens to religion, law, history, and national memory. Generations have processed beneath its vaulted roof, surrounded by music, ancient objects, oaths, and expectation. The coronation chair has held monarch after monarch, while the abbey itself has gathered tombs, memorials, poets, scientists, warriors, and statesmen around the same holy space. It is both a church and a kind of stone archive. To walk inside is to enter a building where power has repeatedly paused, dressed itself in symbolism, and declared continuity. London's political story may unfold at Westminster nearby, but the Abbey gives that story its deepest ritual roots. London's history is really the history of many cities joined together. Modern London can seem like one enormous place, but its past is more like a gathering of separate worlds. The old city of London grew from Roman and medieval roots around trade, law, guilds, and finance. Westminster developed as a centre of monarchy, religion, and government. Southwark formed its own lively identity across the river, with theatres, inns, markets, and entertainments outside stricter city control. Later, villages and towns such as Chelsea, Islington, Hampstead, Greenwich, Hackney, and Brixton were drawn into the expanding metropolis. Each kept traces of its own character. This is why London often feels like a collection of atmospheres rather than a single planned capital. A short journey can carry you between royal ceremony, dockland industry, legal tradition, immigrant neighborhoods, ancient churches, and modern glass towers. The city's magic comes from these layers meeting without fully blending. London once became the largest city the world had ever seen. By the 19th century, London had grown into a human phenomenon on a scale the world had never known. It was no longer only a royal capital or a busy port. It had become a vast urban machine, drawing in workers, merchants, servants, inventors, refugees, and fortune seekers from Britain and far beyond. Railways poured people into huge stations. Ships filled the docks with goods from across the globe. New suburbs stretched outward through fields that had once seemed safely distant. The city contained glittering wealth and shocking poverty almost side by side. It had theatres, factories, slums, clubs, warehouses, palaces, prisons, and markets, all moving at once. To stand in Victorian London was to feel the force of industrial civilization in motion. It was crowded, dirty, brilliant, unequal, and astonishing. A city so large that even Londoners struggled to comprehend it. Roman Londinium grew around a bridge across the Thames. That crossing was the city's first great piece of infrastructure. It joined roads from the south, with roads leading north and west, making the settlement a natural stopping point for soldiers, traders, officials, and travelers. The bridge turned the Thames from a barrier into an opportunity. On one side, ships could unload imported goods from the wider Roman world. On the other, carts could carry supplies inland across Britain. Around this meeting place, warehouses and workshops gathered with remarkable speed. Merchants sold pottery, glass, wine, olive oil, and metal goods. Officials collected taxes. Craftsmen served the needs of a growing population. The bridge did more than connect two riverbanks. It created the conditions for a city to form, because movement, trade, and authority all converged there. Boudicca's rebellion burned Roman London almost to the ground. In the 1st century, the Iceni queen Boudicca led a ferocious uprising against Roman rule. London was still young, but it was already valuable enough to become a target. The Roman governor, Suetonius Paulinus, decided he could not defend it, so he abandoned the settlement and left its people exposed. When Boudicca's forces arrived, the destruction was devastating. Archaeologists have found a distinct red layer beneath the city, made from burned clay, ash, and debris. It is a physical scar from that violent moment. The attack reminds us that early London was not born peacefully into greatness. It existed on a frontier of empire, where resentment, conquest, commerce, and survival collided. Out of that destruction, the Romans rebuilt, and the city returned stronger than before. London's Roman wall shaped the city for many centuries. The wall was more than a military defense. It became a boundary that shaped how London understood itself. Built from stone and tile, it enclosed the Roman city with gates controlling movement in and out. Long after Roman authority faded, the line of the wall continued to matter. Medieval London grew within and around it, using its ancient strength as protection and identity. Streets bent to meet its gates. Neighborhoods formed near its openings. Even names such as Bishopsgate, Aldgate, and Ludgate preserve echoes of that enclosed world. Parts of the wall still survive between modern buildings, often looking strangely out of place among offices and roads. Yet those fragments are reminders that London's shape was not invented all at once. It was guided by stone laid down when emperors still ruled from Rome. Archaeologists still find Roman streets beneath modern office blocks. London's past is not only kept in museums. Much of it lies under foundations, basements, roads, and construction sites. When developers dig, archaeologists often step in before the new city rises. Beneath steel and concrete, they have uncovered wooden writing tablets, shoes, coins, drains, mosaics, tools, and the lines of old roads. These discoveries can be astonishingly intimate. A preserved tablet might show a business note. A child's shoe might reveal a life otherwise completely lost to history. The damp London soil has protected materials that usually decay, especially near the old riverfront. This means the Roman city is still being rediscovered piece by piece. Every major excavation can become a conversation between two Londons, one reaching upward in glass, the other waiting patiently in mud. The Temple of Mithras revealed a hidden Roman religion underground. In the 1950s, post-war rebuilding uncovered one of London's most extraordinary ancient sites. Workers found the remains of a temple dedicated to Mithras, a mysterious god worshipped by some people across the Roman Empire. His cult was especially popular among soldiers and officials, but much about its rituals remains uncertain. The temple had been buried for centuries near the Walbrook, one of London's lost waterways. Inside and around it, archaeologists found sculptures, altars, and objects connected with devotion. The discovery caused public excitement because it opened a doorway into a more secretive side of Roman life. This was not the official face of empire, with governors and roads and taxes. It was a world of initiation, symbolism, loyalty, and belief. Under the modern city, London had kept a sanctuary of hidden faith. Roman London had bathhouses, basilicas, markets, and busy river wharves. At its height, the city was not a rough outpost. It had the features of an organized Roman